All right, we have a trigger warning for you today, folks. Before this episode, we're going to be talking about some rough stuff, even though this is also an episode about World of Warcraft.
Yep.
So there's sex trafficking in this episode. We're going to be talking about Jeffrey Epstein, believe it or not.
Crazy.
There's financial crimes. If you don't like financial crimes, those are in there too.
Yeah, fair enough. Actually,
Is that everything?
I was about to mock that, but no, that makes sense. Yeah, if you've been like a victim of financial crime, for sure. I think that's it.
All right.
Sorry, World of Warcraft.
Yeah, if you don't like World of Warcraft or you've had bad experiences with World of Warcraft, I totally understand. Feel free to duck out now, and we'll see you next week.
Yes, our children, drink deep and feel the searing embrace of the first one. Now it is time for you to acquire what you came for.
The burning in your veins is but a moment of discomfort in your transition to the great beyond. Now we welcome you to your eternity. Drink deeply, have faith, and join us in this sermon.
Welcome back to the Koolaid Stand. I'm Jett.
I'm Stephen. I thought we were going to keep that going.
How's it going?
All right, get serious.
Okay.
It's good, right? We're recording the weekend before I go on vacation, and I haven't gone on vacation in years. I'm excited.
Are you allowed to say what you're doing?
Yeah. I'm going down to Santa Fe. I'm hanging out with Will Benson.
Are you going to your show? Your concert?
And I am also going to see Source, which I'm very excited about.
Fuck
you may have spotted. If you watch the videos, you may have spotted a Source shirt here or there. They are probably my favorite band, and I think I'm in the running for number one fan, and I'm not really joking about that. Like I'm like consistently their like top 1% listener on multiple platforms.
That's crazy to get that on multiple platforms too, because your listening time is spread out.
Yeah.
Like other platforms are not counting your listening time on each other's platforms, and you're still getting top 1% for all of them.
I was the top listener on a social listening platform called AirBuds or whatever the fuck. It like links to your Spotify and shows your friends what you're listening to. And I was like, I think top 0.001% on Spotify or something like that last year.
That's crazy.
No, yeah, and I was like, all right, fuck it. And so I took a screenshot of it and I sent it to them on Instagram, and I told them that like I found their music last year and I thought it was really, really good. And they responded, and we like had a long conversation. And they were like, dude, you should come down to see us debut a new album in April. And I was like, oh shit. Are you guys going to tour? And like, no, we're just doing one show. And I was like, where is it? And they're like, Boulder, Colorado.
This is very far away from us.
Yeah. And I was like, fuck. It's also not close to Santa Fe.
I was going to say you're going to Santa Fe and then to Boulder.
Yeah. So I was like, I kept telling Will I'd get down there and hang out with her. And I decided, I was like, how far away is Boulder? And she was like, well, I mean, it's like a 6-hour drive. And I convinced her to go with me and her girlfriend. So I'm going out there, and we're all packing up in a car, and we're driving up to Boulder for 6 hours one way, and then we're catching a show. I bought everybody tickets. They're $25 a piece.
That's good stuff.
And then we're all driving back. It's like 110 people in the venue. It's seated concert setting, like an actual like stage with curtains and shit. Like it's gonna be awesome.
You guys are coming back the same day?
No.
Oh my God. Okay. I was like, God damn, you guys are gonna spend 12 hours in the car.
Will's girlfriend is either from Boulder or her parents currently live in Boulder.
Oh well, that's helpful.
So there's a house up there that's got plenty of bedrooms that we can all like get up there and stay in. So that's pretty fucking awesome. Very convenient.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, everything worked out. So I'm going out there. I'm gonna be out there for like a week. I haven't really. I'm very scared. My company's gonna explode. But I got a friend handling stuff, so I think I'll be okay.
I also worry about things exploding when I'm not at home, so I
This is
understand
true.
where you're coming from.
We went to see Carpenter Brute. You were like, I'm anxious that my house is gonna blow up. And I was like, I feel that.
Yeah, I just worry about like leaving the stove on or leaving the door unlocked and somebody blowing up my house with a bomb or something like that, you know?
Yeah. When I was a kid, I was always worried that like there were snipers in trees looking at me.
Oh, damn.
This is how I discovered I had a panic disorder. Because I told my dad about that. And he was like,
that's not
heart
right.
Feel like it's going to hurt sometimes?
You were like a veteran in another lifetime or something.
Yeah, I guess so. The trees were speaking to me.
My house did get burglarized one time when I was younger, so that doesn't help.
That's true. No, fair enough, actually. I think about that sometimes. It's never happened to anyone else that I know. It's not like you lived in a bad area.
No, not necessarily. Yeah. What are we doing today? We're doing something much bleaker than a cool concert.
Okay.
Today,
a little bleak episode.
Yeah, it's a little bleak. I realized that when I finished it, but I think it's cool. I have an episode that's about 5 degrees removed from what my original idea for this week was.
I love it when that happens.
Yeah, that's how it goes sometimes when you're just writing. A while back, I first had the idea to make an episode about video game economies in general. Like I wanted to talk about the in-game economies of EverQuest or RuneQuest or World of Warcraft and how they like seeped into the real world over time.
Mm-hmm.
Because today we've ended up with games like Counter-Strike and Team Fortress 2, where digital items are bought and sold for thousands of no-shit real-life dollars. Unfortunately for me, I think the story of how this came to be has been told a few too many times at this point, so I decided I needed a more original approach, I guess, because people have talked a lot about like CSGO marketplace stuff.
It's crazy that honestly the CSGO marketplace is like people like that more than playing the game. It's like
a separate entity to some extent.
Yeah, it's like there's been plenty of scams and scandals around it. It's like being into Legos, and then there's people that like are just into Lego investment, or like they buy sets hoping that they'll appreciate or whatever, so they can scalp people on the back end. Did you end up talking about EverQuest today?
Yes.
Okay.
Not a lot, but yeah.
My EverQuest is a crazy old MMO. My dad used to play it religiously, and he told me that like he ran an item retrieval service. So if you died in raids, he always plays rogues, and he would go into raids for you and get your shit and bring it back for a nominal fee.
That's hilarious. Well, maybe he worked with the guy we're going to talk about later.
I think he did it on his own, but it was pretty cool.
Yeah, there were a lot of people doing that shit in EverQuest where they were kind of running in-game businesses, and then over time those in-game businesses became opportunities to charge people real life money for your services in the game.
Yeah. Well, that game was vicious. So like mulligans didn't exist, and you needed help sometimes.
Yeah. You could charge a lot for that kind of thing, I'm sure.
Yeah, you could.
So in short, the gaming industry eventually discovered the value of microtransactions, right? And they abandoned the integrity of their games in favor of maximizing their economic output. This eventually gave way to, among other things, the implementation of digital loot boxes and card packs where players could spend small amounts of real-world money for the chance to win high-value in-game items. This was and still is unregulated gambling aimed at vulnerable demographics.
It sucks. I hate it, and it's only made gaming worse as a whole. I hate this shit. It pisses me off so much.
Absolutely. And it ruins those in-game economies we're talking about too, if you care about like the functionality of the game as well.
It almost ruined games for a second. Like, actually, what was it? Battlefront 2 that was like gating certain characters through like, what was it called? What do they call them? Surprise mechanics.
They were loot boxes.
But yeah, you had to pay like $200 to get Darth Vader and like play well, with Darth Vader.
Yeah.
It's fucking stupid.
Yeah, or just get like really lucky one time spending money on surprise mechanics.
Yeah, great.
They got bullied out of that, fortunately.
As they should have. I think it's the most disliked comment ever on Reddit.
That's crazy.
It's pretty funny.
But yeah, if you've been listening to the show recently, this whole thing about unregulated gambling probably sounds pretty familiar.
I don't know what's up with us in that right now.
Around the time I started thinking about this episode, we had just released our episode on prediction market gambling. And I didn't want to beat a dead racehorse, right? So I put my idea on the back burner again until I could find a more unique approach to talking about video game economies. So I once again decided that I needed a more original approach. And eventually something did come to me, an ancient memory from my days of playing World of Warcraft like it was my part-time job. You see, World of Warcraft is an MMO. It's a game that requires an enormous time investment to build even one character up to the height of their in-game potential. And there was a time when I probably spent like 20 plus hours a week playing World of Warcraft, and I was nowhere near being a top level player. Not even close.
It's crazy because I frankly I hate MMOs. And I do not like World of Warcraft at all. But World of Warcraft is probably what started our friendship by happenstance.
Yeah, because your family played it and I played it a lot.
Yeah, my mom neglected me as a child playing that game. And I saw you were reading like a World of Warcraft book. And I was like, oh, you like World of Warcraft?
Yeah,
and,
we were just trying to talk about video games together, you know?
Yeah.
But part of the reason it's so difficult to become like a top level player in a game like this is that it doesn't just require an enormous amount of time. It also requires an enormous amount of in-game money. See, in World of Warcraft, you need a lot of gold to trade for the best gear. There's even like an in-game auction house where people list top level items, and you just need like an exorbitant amount of the in-game gold to be able to buy that kind of stuff and compete at the top level. And if you have a job or a life, it's pretty damn hard to make enough gold to compete with the top level players that are buying and selling those kinds of items. And if you're really into a game like World of Warcraft, this can be kind of like a frustrating roadblock, and there isn't really much that you can do about it. Even if you're somebody like me who's still playing a lot, this is kind of a wall that you run into that's pretty difficult to get past.
Sure. This isn't like Destiny where like there is no secondary market. If you want an item, you're going to the raid every week. You are grinding.
Yeah. Which you can do in World of Warcraft, but then again, you need to be like a top level player because you have to get into a guild that like thinks you're good enough to go to the raid with them, and you need like 30 other people to go with you, and it's a whole big ordeal.
Raids are gargantuan. Again, this is not like Destiny where it's like you and 6 buddies are gonna handle this shit. Maybe if you can pull your shit together long enough. Yeah.
So thankfully for players like me who run into this roadblock, there was a shortcut back in the day: gold farmers. Stephen, do you have any experience with gold farmers in online games? I know you're not really an MMO guy.
Not really. I used to be pretty front edge in Destiny, but that was kind of a different MMO environment. It was really more of like a shared RPG experience with everybody. Gold farming, I know about as a concept, but I don't know. In the brief times I played World of Warcraft, or an actually interesting MMO that I did play was called. You ever heard of World of Heroes?
No, I have not heard of World of Heroes.
Dude, it's like an MMO, but you get to you're all in a city that's all fucked up, and you're all playing superheroes.
That sounds cool.
Oh, City of Heroes. It's called City of Heroes.
I still don't think I know it.
No, fair enough. Changing one word didn't jog your memory.
No,
no, it's really cool. You get to like pick your own superpowers, and then like the combination of superpowers you pick. It's like everyone. There's no real classes. It didn't feel like it was just kind of based on your superpowers, and you could fly and do all kinds of crazy stuff.
That sounds cool.
Yeah, it was cool. But I played that game very briefly, and there was no gold farming that I ran into. So yeah, all that to say, I don't really have any experience with gold farming. I just know about it, and I know it gets pretty fucked up.
Yeah, well, it's kind of gone now, right? It's kind of gone by the wayside in favor of microtransactions because studios want to bring that shit in-house, obviously.
Did you do that in WoW now? You just buy gold in WoW without gold farming?
It's against the terms of service.
Oh, okay.
Or
Whatever.
sorry, buying it directly from Blizzard, I don't think you can do. But like
That's what I was asking.
selling it player to player is against terms of service.
Yeah, okay.
But back when I was playing a lot of World of Warcraft, gold farming ads were everywhere. Yeah, they were really everywhere. The in-game chat was inundated with links to sketchy sites, and YouTube videos about the game, which I watched a lot of, were plastered with ads for gold farms using your favorite internet personality to legitimize themselves. They were all selling the same service. You pay them real money, and they give you in-game gold.
Interesting.
So for anyone who isn't aware, that's essentially what this old school version of gold farming was. You could pay real money to a third-party company that employed people to spend all their time earning in-game gold in the most efficient ways possible. In exchange, they would give you the gold that you needed in the game without any of the time commitment.
We hope they were employed.
Who was employed? The people doing the farming?
Yeah, because there are non-employment systems for this kind of thing as well.
They were technically employed. We'll talk
Did
about
you
it
get into
later.
this?
Yeah, we'll talk about it
Okay,
later.
yeah.
They were technically employees.
Yeah. What was the conversion rate? Do you know? Do you remember?
Gold to money?
Yeah.
I don't, because I never bought
Okay.
any with real life money, but
Sure.
it fluctuated a lot.
It's a fucking.
And it was different server to server too. Like gold was more expensive if your character
Oh.
was on different servers because the economy was different
Right.
on different servers.
You can transfer your stuff between servers, right? It's just kind of complicated.
I think it costs money.
Oh yeah, it costs.
I think you
Blizzard
pay
money, right?
Blizzard and Blizzard
Yeah.
will switch your character to a different server.
Weird.
But yeah, the prices of things are different on different servers. So you could sell gold for more in some places, but then everybody would go there to sell gold and it would get inflated and then they'd move somewhere else, you know?
So fucking odd.
Really weird sub economy in the game. Yeah. But the actual transactions between gold farmers and players in the early days, they were kind of wild. They would often go down like a back alley drug deal because you would transfer money to an often pretty sketchy website and you would agree to meet one of their couriers in the game. You would literally have to go meet one of the company's characters in the game where they would then trade the gold from their character to your character that you had already paid for. So there was absolutely nothing stopping them from shortchanging you or just not showing up to the meeting.
Awesome.
Yeah, it worked differently later on because obviously this is a really like kind of unstable business model.
Yeah.
But this is how it worked at the start, which is very interesting. So while there were plenty of issues with these deals not being properly fulfilled, as you might imagine, gold farmers were mostly interested in keeping their operation running so that they could continue making money. So most of the time, it would go through. As we'll later see, gold farming back in the early 2000s could actually be a pretty lucrative venture. Without the existence of microtransactions, gold farmers only had to compete with each other. And it wasn't uncommon for the people running these operations to make a real living exchanging in-game money for real money.
Now I'm just imagining like this happening in a PvP server, and you've got like fucking gold carrier wars, where like people are shanking each other and stealing each other's gold.
Going around like killing the couriers and like
Yeah.
stealing thousands
Robbing
of
them,
dollars worth of
pirating.
gold off them.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know if that happened, but maybe it was less of a thing that people did on PvP servers or something. So the main problem for gold farmers was that they were operating in a sort of gray market. Their business was not illegal, but the studios who controlled the games that they operated in had the power to shut them down at a moment's notice. And these studios hated gold farmers after a while. Blizzard, the makers of World of Warcraft, would permanently ban any account that advertised gold farming services or participated them or was like running a bot to farm gold. They'd just ban your account. So given the current state of gaming today, it might be a little surprising that studios would take such an issue with gold farmers, because we know that having a real world economy surrounding your game means that you stand to benefit monetarily. even if that economy is driven by third parties, it brings more money and more players to market for your game. And we've seen this sort of thing happen with games like Counter-Strike, like we were talking about at the beginning.
Yeah.
Because there was a time when trading CSGO skins like they were stocks had gotten so popular that there was a notable increase in player count and game activity, even though, like we said, these people weren't playing Counter-Strike.
Yeah, they're just there to trade keys and crates.
Yeah.
This happened to Payday 2 at one point.
Did it really?
Yeah. So it happened while we were playing it on Xbox. They had an update where you could, like you can get all these skins and they have like varying degrees of decay in Payday 2.
Yeah.
This was all linked to an actual like safe and key system that you'd get safes and you'd go buy keys and you'd open your safes and then you'd have all these like. That's why there's a secondary market to trade these skins around. Now it's all just random, but yeah.
Yeah. So I guess
just
that
like
was.
CS:GO.
That sounds almost exactly like what happened with CSGO. Yeah.
So fucking stupid.
But either way, it helps the company that makes the game make more money, right?
Yeah.
And back in the early 2000s, games didn't really have microtransactions of their own. Like they weren't the ones selling the keys to open the cases, right?
Right.
So studios like Blizzard looked at the amount of money that gold farmers were making and realized that it could just be theirs if they wanted it to be.
Yeah.
Because studios held all the power in these situations. Why would they allow a middleman to make bank off of their game when they could just ban the middleman and bring the operation in-house? So studios eventually cracked down on third parties and made the transition to selling gold and gear to their players directly.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure this would open the floodgate to microtransactions as a whole. I think Blizzard did it first.
Absolutely. I don't know if Blizzard was the first to like start the train, but this whole shutdown on third party markets was what led to microtransactions, because that seeing how much money these guys were making led to the studios realizing how much money they were missing out on because they could just do the same thing.
I do know that Blizzard did provide the very first microtransaction.
Really? Was it a World of Warcraft one?
It was a horse.
A horse.
It was like a mount.
That makes sense. People love their mounts.
This is true. I've seen some goofy mounts.
Yeah, there's a whole subculture in the game of people who just try to collect rare mounts.
It's so weird.
Just mount collectors, yeah. So when I was looking into this transition from gold farming to microtransactions, I came across an interesting story. A large gold farming company had at one point essentially thrown themselves under the bus by asking Blizzard to partner with them directly.
Oh.
Blizzard, having seen their successful business model, understood that they could simply take it for themselves.
Yeah.
And while this story helps explain the rise of microtransactions, it's far from the most interesting thing that I learned about this particular company when I was looking into it. Their full story includes sweatshops, massive fraud, government raids, sex trafficking, and the early stages of Gamergate. And it also includes Steve Bannon and Jeffrey Epstein.
What?
And that is why I want to spend the rest of this episode talking about the gold farming company known as Internet Gaming Entertainment, or IGE.
Dude, you're going to get fucking murked.
I'm going to get murked?
Yeah, dude. They're going to find you.
Who, Jeffrey Epstein?
Yeah. He's in Argentina.
Have you ever heard of Brock Pierce?
No.
Okay. I hadn't either, but Brock Pierce was the guy who would eventually found IGE. But not before becoming filthy rich during the .com era boom with a different company called Digital Entertainment Network, or DEN, which they called DEN.
Okay.
Also, his companies are called Digital Entertainment Network and Internet Gaming Entertainment.
It's a very classic company name.
He's very creative. So Pierce actually started out before gold farming as a relatively successful child actor, having played a role in 2 Mighty Ducks movies and the movie First Kid, which I don't know that one, but I think it's like a relatively popular movie.
Interesting.
And Pierce says that acting was never his choice, and he was pushed into it by his mother. This is pretty common for child actors. And by 16, he wanted to get out of acting and into the business world. This would lead him to accepting an offer from a 37-year-old man named Mark Collins Rector. Collins Rector had already made a fortune selling his successful dial-up service and wanted Pierce to join his new venture, Den, as a founder. So
Rector. I barely know her.
I know. I didn't know her either.
Dial-up service, man. Okay, just to date this fucking event. This is crazy.
Yeah, early internet days. This guy Collins Rector, he gets a very lucrative sale on a dial-up service company that he started, and now he goes to start Den, and he's 37, and he invites 17-year-old Brock Pierce to join his company as a founder. And you might be asking yourself why a 37-year-old man wanted a vulnerable and isolated 17-year-old former child actor to be a VP at his tech startup.
Because he sees great potential, of course.
Yes, Collins Rector would tell you that he needed young executives to build credibility with the younger, more tech-focused generation. Although it isn't entirely clear, I suspect that the actual answer is much darker than that.
Yeah.
So when Collins Rector approached Pierce, he already had another young VP at his side, 23-year-old Chad Shackley. Collins Rector and Shackley had lived together for a time, and they maintained a sexual relationship since Shackley was just 16 years old. Collins Rector would have been 30 or 31 when this began.
Oh, man, we need a trigger warning on this episode.
Yeah. We do.
All right.
But this is not a good start, and this is not a good sign for Brock Pierce joining this company at 17.
No.
And
buddy.
To make matters worse, Pierce would move into a multi-million-dollar California mansion alone with his new business partners. Man. He had basically, to my understanding, kind of been isolated from his family at this point because of the whole child acting thing, right? And Pierce claims that moving into the MNC estate, which stands for Mark and Chad.
Hell yeah.
He claims that this was an invaluable learning opportunity for him. He likens his time living in the mansion and working with Den to business school. From what I can see, this could not be further from the truth.
Yeah, interesting business to learn here, I believe.
Yeah, they're not even really running a business, which I'm going to get to in a second.
Okay.
So Den was supposed to be an online video service kind of halfway between network TV and YouTube. They were going to have programming that they put out, but it was going to be on-demand videos on the internet. Mm-hmm. And Collins Rector claimed it would be the death of old media. He wrote that boob tube zombie television is dead. Global entertainment will be delivered over the internet. Digital entertainment network will be the last network.
I mean, he was half right.
Yeah, his vision it's not off base, right?
No.
He might be a little full of himself on the whole my network is going to be the last network thing, but he's right about video entertainment moving to the internet. The catch is that I don't think Collins Rector ever actually intended to make that vision a reality. I don't think that was ever really his goal with Den. And Den only existed for 3 years. They spent the entire time amassing over $90 million in investments just to blow it all on executive salaries and massive parties at the MNC estate. They only ever produced a few dozen episodes of actual content for their network, and not even all. Most of that, I don't even think made it onto the network.
Yeah, this is part of why the .com bubble burst. Is not specifically this, but shit like this.
Yeah, because this is a guy who did make a successful tech business, right? With his dial-up company. So people are venture capital, venture capital, venture capital. They're just throwing money at shit. Throwing money at websites. And there's a lot of companies around this time, similarly to Den, who don't do anything productive with that money.
Yeah, they just exist to get invested in and then collapse.
Yeah, and they get rich and they live lavishly by doing that. But real consequences don't happen, I guess.
Nope.
By the end of 1999, the money was running out, and Den had one foot in the grave. They had spent $20 million in the first half of the year and had exactly $0 in revenue to show for it. In October of that year, Collins Rector took Den's other foot and planted that one firmly in the grave as well. I'm sure you'll be entirely unsurprised to learn that a lawsuit was brought against him by an 18-year-old who claimed to have been molested multiple times by Collins Rector between the ages of 13 and 16.
Yeah.
And at this point, it was too late for Den as a company. All three founders resigned, and sexual harassment lawsuits that named all three of them started to stack up. I'm sure there was all kinds of uncouth activity happening at those mansion parties.
That's the thing that happens is like one person's brave enough to start it, and then once the dam is opened, oftentimes this shit just kind of collapses out from underneath them, which is good. Like,
yeah, and it seems apparent that this guy is probably the ringleader, right? But he's also surrounding himself with like vulnerable and isolated younger men who,
yeah, I
imagine it's not too difficult for them to get sucked into what he's doing.
Yeah. I mean, that's so just to talk about it briefly, that's part of some people that fill this kind of role. It's kind of part of the deal is to groom them into accepting this as normal. And then it perpetuates a cycle in its own right. Not to give him a way out, but this probably happened to him at some point when he was younger. This,
yeah, absolutely.
Cycle of abuse is perpetuated for sure.
Yeah. So, and not that that's an excuse, but it's absolutely true.
Yeah.
And Pierce still today claims that he never even knew about these lawsuits. Until later, right? On its own, I find that claim pretty hard to believe.
Yeah.
And what makes it even harder to believe is that less than a year later, the three Den founders had fled the country. Without settling any of the suits against them, they took what money they had left, which was still a lot, still multiple millions of dollars, and they moved to Spain together. $4.5 million in default judgments had been awarded, and they were nowhere to be found.
Yeah. And they're not coming back, I bet.
Pierce comes back eventually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And Pierce was only 19 still when they fled to Spain together. He was a former child actor who had fallen into a world of sex abuse, financial crimes, and horrible .com bubble excess. He was now living far away from home, and his fortune was slowly bleeding away. I don't say this because I think we should feel bad for the guy, but it's easy to understand why he would have been in a poor mental state at the time.
Yeah, sure.
You can still look at this situation and go, I get why Brock Pierce is having a really hard time right now, regardless of what he may or may not have done in California.
Yeah.
Evidently, Pierce wanted to escape the reality he was now living in, and video games became his primary coping mechanism at this time, particularly the MMO EverQuest. Pierce, he genuinely became one of the game's top players for a time. He played a lot of EverQuest. But remember how I said that it takes more than time to reach the top of an MMO player base?
Yeah.
Yeah, it also takes money. And Pierce had become extremely good at generating in-game currency in EverQuest. The tactic that he was apparently known for using is called six-boxing, which I didn't know about. This must be, I guess it was a thing at the time. It involved running 6 computers and 6 characters at the same time, which allowed him to run high-level dungeons by himself.
Okay.
And by beating the most difficult dungeons alone, he could stockpile the game's most sought-after gear without having to organize a group or split the loot with anybody else.
Interesting.
Reportedly, some of the items that Pierce was able to farm regularly could sell for up to $500 a piece on eBay.
Damn.
When he started doing this. And that's what a lot of small-time guys were doing in EverQuest at the time. They would get the items and then make a listing on eBay where it's like, you pay me this much money, I'll meet you in the game and I'll give you the item.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's pretty interesting. It's honestly kind of cool. I don't like, because you don't, when you're playing MMOs like this, usually the drops. So in Destiny, it was randomized drop for every individual person. You either did or didn't get what you wanted, and there was really no way to trade it out. And basically, your buddies either got to support you in your victory or get jealous, or you were the other way around. You know, it's like, oh great, Chatterwhite again, awesome. I definitely needed this skin.
It was cool the first time. I don't need it anymore.
I remember when I got the Vex Mythic last. That was awesome.
Oh shit, yeah.
I did actually get the Vex. It was awesome. After post nerf, but it was still cool to have. This is in normal MMO games. The loot is kind of just dropped to everybody all at once in one pool.
Yes, it is a shared pool in most games.
There's a system for claiming it, right? I don't remember how it works in World of Warcraft, but there's like
in World of Warcraft, if you're playing with randoms, and they do this to prevent people from being sneaky and stealing all the loot. It's a shared loot pool, but then you get the option to either when a good item drops, the game gives you the option to pass on the item, or you can mark the item as greed or need. And if anybody marks it need, they get first priority. And if nobody needs it, then it goes down to greed. And everybody within those priority groups basically just like rolls a D100, and whoever rolls the highest gets the item.
Why don't you just hit need on everything?
Because then people get pissed at you and like won't play with you.
Does it tell everybody what you mark every item as?
Yeah, like in the chat.
Oh, okay.
It'll say that different people are needing or greeting different things. But when you play with like your guild and you're with a group of big people all together, they'll like literally have priority lists of like guild members who need certain items, and they'll like go down the list to
because they want to build out a stronger guild
to everybody that's there. Yeah.
Okay.
It gets very complex.
In this case, there is none of this. He is receiving every item every time. They all get funneled right back to him. So I mean, it's pretty fucking smart. I can't imagine it's easy. But you know, if you have a high enough level character, you probably can solo it. It's
not easy. That's why he can sell these things for $500 a pop. He is doing something really difficult, and he has 6 expensive computers, which most people don't.
Yeah.
So at first, Pierce was able to generate a few $1,000s a month with his EverQuest 6 boxing technique, but he had much bigger ambitions. Despite his dedication, it's honestly hard for me to believe that EverQuest had become Pierce's passion. I think it's more likely that he had become accustomed to being wealthy and powerful, and that his success in EverQuest had presented him with an opportunity to reverse his bad fortune. I don't think this was a love of the game thing. That's not how it reads to me.
No, he probably started playing EverQuest because he was lonely and sad and needed something to do, and then he saw an opportunity.
Yes, that's exactly how I see it as well.
Yeah.
So from that point, Pierce decided that he wanted to farm and sell virtual items on a corporate scale. It was going to be his next big venture. The studios that ran these sorts of games weren't very fond of these operations, but they certainly were not illegal, like I mentioned before. So Pierce was not going to be stopped by the fact that people running the games didn't like it very much.
Sure. He already did something else that people didn't like very much. And
this is true. So. Yes, this is true. He seems to have no problem with that sort of thing.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. In 2001, he started his new company, Internet Gaming Entertainment, IGE. He rented a small office near his home in Spain and began hiring a few locals to do his farming for him. He even hired a member of his EverQuest guild, who this member was also a successful farmer on his own, and he hired this guy to oversee the operation in the Spain office. And I think they were around the same age. This guy was maybe a couple years older than him.
I was going to ask.
We're looking at like 19 and like 21. Like these guys are very young setting this up. And it started out well, but partway through 2002, Pierce once again disappeared. So he's got this guy running his operation. He's got these employees. They're doing well. And then he's just gone.
Okay.
And Pierce had understandably been cagey about his past business dealings with his new business partners. So the other people working at IGE didn't really know where he had gone. To him, to them, he'd disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
Notably, the business continued to run very smoothly without Pierce around. And Stephen, I'd like you to guess where Pierce was at this time.
Either on a certain island based on mentions from earlier, or yeah, honestly, he may have been extradited.
Your second guess is so close to being correct.
Okay.
Pierce, along with Shackley and Collins Rector, who he was still living with there in Spain, had been detained by the Spanish government.
Okay.
And Collins Rector had been detained because the U.S. was trying to extradite him on charges of transporting a minor across state lines with the intent to engage in sexual activity. That is not the best.
You're not allowed to do that.
No, that's why they're trying to extradite him.
Yeah.
It turns out it's a crime.
Which part? Just transporting? What the fuck has this country come to?
Transporting a minor?
I can't even transport minors in this fucking godforsaken hellhole.
So,
no.
Considering their close relationship with Collins Rector and the lawsuits that had defaulted against all three of them, Pierce and Shackley were also detained. They claim that there was like a SWAT team that like came into their house with guns and stuff, but that's not verifiable as far as I can tell.
It's Spanish, so it's a SWAT team.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
I think those two, Shackley and Pierce, were only held in custody for about a month, but Collins Rector stayed in detention for like a year and a half fighting extradition. Apparently, Pierce tried pretty hard to help him out during this time, too. I read that Pierce went to Liberia so that he could try to buy a diplomatic title for Collins Rector, because apparently this title would have come with some sort of like diplomatic immunity that could have saved him from the U.S. even being able to legally extradite him.
Interesting.
Again, I'm not sure if that's 100% true, but he is definitely, after he gets out of detention, not going back to his business and running around trying to figure out how to help Collins Rector in some way, shape, or form.
Victims of grooming tend to fight tooth and nail for their groomer.
Yes, that appears to be the case here as well. And Pierce was also working hard to smooth over his own legal issues during this time. It's actually not clear to me if he was able to get the suits against him dismissed or not, but he did have very good legal help. He must have cleared things up to some extent because he had returned to the US by 2003.
Okay.
So he figures something out where he's able to be there without fear of
being
being
worry of
detained, I guess, because he is a public figure when he goes back. And it's also around this time when he returns to the US that IGE sets up its headquarters in Florida. Importantly, though, most of the actual farming would eventually be done in Hong Kong. From 2003 to 2004, IGE increased their workforce and diversified their portfolio by opening up shop in other popular MMOs. They began to take over the market, either absorbing their competitors or driving them out of business. 2004 was also the year that World of Warcraft was first released, and this was a huge development for IGE and gold farming as a whole. World of Warcraft opened up a whole new market for IGE, and it quickly became one of the most popular and most played MMOs ever. EverQuest had reached around 550,000 subscribers at its peak, just a year after its release. And this is before it, I think this might even be before it releases in China. World of Warcraft has 5 million subscribers.
Good Lord.
Yeah. So with a customer base nearly 10 times larger than it had been before, the gold farming business boomed. A major contribution to this boom came when World of Warcraft released in China in 2005. And the reason I say that 5 million count might be before that is because it is from 2005, but I don't know if it was before or after the release.
Sure.
The use of cheap Chinese labor quickly became popular among gold farming businesses. Now Chinese people can play the game, which means now you can use them for labor.
Yeah.
The trend started in China and Korea, where entrepreneurs used cheap local labor to stockpile gold that they could then sell to players in the West for an enormous markup. Seemingly by accident, IGE was already ahead of the curve. Remember that they had already set up a farming operation in Hong Kong, but that was well before World of Warcraft was even available there.
Yeah, they were just there for other games.
Yeah, which was less lucrative, but obviously it's the same concept.
Yeah.
All they needed to do was refocus their efforts in Hong Kong on World of Warcraft, and they could hop on the bandwagon right away. They had no setup time. They would even set up a supply center in Shanghai where gold farmers could offload their goods directly to IGE. So they have like an open market where independent Chinese gold farmers can come and sell their supply to IGE, who then distributes it and gives them a cut, basically.
Fucking crazy.
It's such an odd market, dude.
What the fuck?
So, as you can probably imagine, the working conditions for Chinese gold farming operations, they were not so good.
No.
Some of them were literal sweatshops.
Yeah.
Many employees were paid 30 to 40 cents an hour. They worked up to 12 hours a day, and they even had to sleep on site in certain locations.
Some prisons did this also.
Really? They just had people play games to sell?
Yeah, there was prison labor involved in this shit.
Yeah, that I didn't know. This is the sort of shit that IGE and other gold farming companies are exploiting when this is like a really huge business in the early 2000s, though. It's a horribly unethical business in the background. And if IGE wasn't running these virtual sweatshops directly, they were buying their product from independent ones at that supply center in Shanghai. Mm-hmm. They were making these sweatshops possible, like almost single-handedly.
Got fucking World of Warcraft blood gold.
Yeah, absolutely, dude.
Before GTA 5.
Meanwhile, American players were largely unaware of the working conditions and continued to exchange their cash for in-game gold. After the advent of virtual Chinese sweatshops, gold farming ballooned into nearly $1 billion industry for a couple of years.
Fuck.
IGE had grown so large that they were no longer able to fly under the radar in this like gray market, and they needed to legitimize themselves. However, people didn't really take Pierce seriously. He was still in his early 20s, and let's remind ourselves he had never actually run a legitimate or successful company before.
Yeah, being in your early 20s running a company is absolutely a hallmark of people just not fucking taking you seriously, and it's agonizing. It's so fucking annoying.
He's incredibly young. He's got kind of a shady legal history.
That doesn't help.
And he got all his money running companies, but none of those companies were actually operating or successful in any way.
I mean, except for this. This is crazy.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
It's kind of a fucked up company, but yes, he is legitimately making a lot of money without breaking any laws right now. So Pierce and IGE, they needed outside help to keep their operation running. So they brought in older, more experienced executives. This included a former EA executive who was called Stephen Salier, and of course, a Goldman Sachs investment banker named Steve fucking Bannon.
What the fuck?
And if you don't know who Steve Bannon is, I don't have nearly enough time to tell you how terrible he is. So in the interest of time, I'm going to give you a short rundown of Steve Bannon's shittiness.
This shit just got exponentially more evil.
Yes, because Steve Bannon has entered the room.
And someone from EA, I would say also, but yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't help. So Bannon is an investment banker turned alt-right ghoul. He co-founded Breitbart, an inflammatory alt-right news outlet filled with propaganda. He served as Trump's chief strategist for the first 7 months of Trump's first term before being fired. He was the vice president of Cambridge Analytica, a firm that illegally collected personal data from millions of Facebook users without their informed consent on behalf of right-wing political campaigns. He socialized with and was an advisor to Jeffrey Epstein all the way up until his death. He was arrested on federal charges of conspiracy to commit mail fraud and money laundering because he was stealing money from Trump supporters through a fake fundraising campaign. And last but not
Jesus.
least, he refused to comply with a subpoena from the January 6th committee and served time in federal prison for contempt of Congress.
Nice. This
So,
guy,
yeah.
if we had written this episode like 10 years ago, it wouldn't have been as interesting. But
No.
yeah, what the fuck?
Yeah, over the past decade, we've learned a lot more about who Steve Bannon is, and this is the kind of guy that IGE wants to bring in to help their business, which does not speak well to Pierce's actual desire to become a legitimate businessman, in my opinion.
No. Dude, it's like doing something evil is like a fucking summoning circle for Steve Bannon. He just arrives.
I would like to assist.
Yeah. So I heard you guys were doing evil shit. Yeah, I'm in.
I want in. So anyway, yeah, that's the guy that IGE was bringing in to help run the show.
Sorry, it's just like you come into work, you get into your office, your assistant's like, "Hey, there's someone in the lobby." And you come out there and he's just arrived, like sitting in the lobby. Like, you have to let me help now.
It's evil.
Once you reach a certain point, I'm involved. So
I have an obligation to be here now. Your business has really, you've reached a certain level of evil. You're running sweatshops overseas. Yeah. I want in.
Yeah, it's gonna get bannified now. So,
yeah, you wouldn't think this is the kind of guy you want around, but
no.
His connection to Goldman Sachs turns out to be pretty useful for IGE because he's like just kind of finished his investment banker arc at this time in his life, I think. So Bannon struck a deal between IGE and Goldman Sachs that landed them $60 million in venture capital. Some of the money was used to buy people out, but a large portion of it went towards providing IGE with actual general legal counsel. Apparently, that wasn't something that they had until now, despite bringing in over $250 million over the past year. They just don't have lawyers.
I don't have a lawyer on retainer, but I have a good relationship with two of them. So like, if I need them, I can. But yeah, to get to that point and not have any legal counsel is pretty fucking crazy. I mean, this happens with internet businesses where it's like they kind of just blow up, and this isn't something you're thinking about. At least this is what I hear about from most people who like have internet businesses. They're like, I didn't even think that that it was that serious, even though they were dealing with serious money.
Yeah, and that's understandable for people who are never kind of intending to become a larger business.
Yeah.
But Pierce definitely wanted this to be a large scale operation from the start. And he clearly has lawyers who he can go to if he's in trouble, because we've seen him get out of trouble before. But yeah, they don't have like general legal counsel until Bannon comes in. And part of the reason that IGE needed proper legal counsel was that Blizzard was finally getting on their asses. Blizzard had released a statement against gold farmers saying that, quote, they spam advertisements, use bots that make it hard for players to find the resources that they need, and raise the costs of items through inflation. So Blizzard obviously took issue with gold farmers for business reasons primarily, right? But I find this statement interesting because they're also, with this statement, they're making an effort to appeal to the sentiment of their players, not just their business, right?
Yeah, they're like, you're not going to be able to find the stuff you need. You're not going to be able to buy items you want. Like, yeah, that makes sense.
So they're not just making statements like, oh, these guys are taking money away from us. They're
taking it from you.
Yeah, they're
taking time from you.
They're trying to turn the public sentiment against gold farmers.
Yeah.
And it worked really well. The World of Warcraft player base did turn against gold farmers, and they felt like Blizzard had their backs because of statements like this. And I suppose that they did in a way, but for an entirely different reason than the players on the back end.
Yeah.
But either way, Blizzard had the full support of the player base when they started banning accounts that were seen advertising gold for sale or using bots to farm gold. For IGE, this was a very grim turn of events. IGE responded in a way that seems really strange to me. They went to publishers like Blizzard directly. What they were asking for was essentially a license to break the terms of service so that they could continue to peddle in-game items. I do not know what they were offering in return, and I can't imagine what their rationale was. But there's just no way that Blizzard was ever going to accept a deal like that.
Yeah, no.
There's no way. Because they held all the cards, like we talked about before. All they had to do was continue banning the gold farmers from their game. Eventually, even IGE would be driven out of business and Blizzard could bring the microtransaction game in-house. And that's exactly what ends up happening.
Yeah.
So
and for free, they didn't have to make any deals. Like,
I don't know if IGE is dumb, desperate, or they thought they had some kind of rationale that they thought Blizzard would like. I don't know what this was.
I mean, they were a near $1 billion per year enterprise. I think they just thought they had it like that.
Yeah, I guess so.
But you can't reason with someone who does not want to be reasoned with. And Blizzard did not want to be reasoned with. They're like, nope. We're banning this concept. Sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. And Blizzard doesn't take them seriously the entire time because they're like, well, if we say no, then that means no. Like, you have no bargaining power here.
Yeah.
There's even this story that seems apocryphal to me, but apparently when IGE was trying to meet with Blizzard, they weren't even able to get a meeting in a Blizzard building. They took a guy out to like a ball game is what they say. And they gave him about 10 minutes and didn't listen to him.
What the fuck? Yeah, you can't alter the deal. These guys are the deal makers. There's no deal to be made here. They just don't want it.
And there's no neither of them are doing anything illegal. So Blizzard can do whatever the fuck they want.
Yeah.
And so it's only the start of 2006 when things really begin to unravel for IGE because of this. Buyers were more scarce because the player base was turning against gold farmers. Profits were slowing down, and IGE began defaulting on payments to former executives that they had bought out just last year when they got the Goldman Sachs investment.
Yeah. I mean, Blizzard did a smart move by making this a moral quandary. If you go and support gold farmers or your buddies hear it, you're supporting gold farmers, then you're gonna hear about it, right? It's just like, no, you're actually a shitty person by doing that. And I know how the internet gets. There's more. You've attached moral outrage. This is the most powerful form of advertisement against something.
And we'll talk about it later, but Steve Bannon kind of starts to notice that this is a way to mobilize angry young men online. To make matters worse, Blizzard's crackdown was getting even more serious. They were now completely shutting down and deleting thousands of accounts that were used for gold farming. That meant that the golden items held on those accounts were gone forever. So more than $200,000 worth of IG's inventory was just being deleted from the game each month.
Yeah. So how this looks, if you don't know, is you log in and you can't. There's no announcement. Yeah. There's nothing. Blizzard doesn't give a fuck about this shit.
Yeah.
You will go to your account and it just won't be there.
Yeah, and you don't have an opportunity to transfer the items that were on that account anywhere else. No. They don't go anywhere. They just are gone. They're just deleted from the game.
You can't ask for any of that back. There's no referral. It's just done.
No, and they can just go, oh, well, you broke the terms of service.
Sorry.
Yeah. And I'm sure you'll remember that IGE was also using independent Chinese suppliers, right? And those suppliers were pissed now because IGE kept losing all of their inventory. They were giving gold to IGE to sell, and then IGE was losing it, and they weren't getting anything back. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is like taking your antiques to an antique consignment store, and then they throw them all in the garbage.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't feel bad for the guys running the sweatshops, but that is why they were upset.
Yeah.
And by the start of 2007, IGE was in full-on free fall.
So the guys at sweatshops were like, you stole our labor and I didn't receive anything for it. What the fuck is this?
IGE is losing over $500,000 a month at this point. They're crashing and burning. In May
Yeah.
of 2007, a guy named Antonio Hernandez filed a class action lawsuit against IGE. Hernandez and his lawyer were planning to use consumer protection laws to get a multi-million-dollar payout for World of Warcraft players who had been affected by IGE's wrongful conduct. The wild part is that it seemed like Hernandez was probably gonna win, but unfortunately IGE was already collapsing behind the scenes, and that wasn't really public knowledge yet. So a few months before the lawsuit was officially filed, Pierce sold IGE's gold farming operation for pennies on the dollar. He doesn't sell the whole company, but he sells this wing of the company.
Sure.
And poetically, he sold it to a guy called Jonathan Yantis. Yantis was originally a competitor to IGE, but Pierce had bought his company and merged it with IGE around the beginning of when they started to become a bigger company. Yantis was an executive after that buyout for a while at IGE, but then he was bought out after that deal with Goldman Sachs. He had a non-compete clause as part of the buyout, but that non-compete clause was made void after IGE started defaulting on their payments to him. So he restarted his own company and bought IGE's gold farming operation for himself.
Okay.
So it's kind of a redemption story for this guy. I'm sure he's not the best guy either, but and he's buying like a failing business. It doesn't seem like a great buy to me, but
Yeah,
you know,
no.
it's
But
it's kind of a funny story. So, like I said, they didn't sell the whole company, and IGE continued to exist after the sale, but they moved away from the gold farming business entirely. Later that same year, Pierce was forced out as the CEO and replaced by none other than Steve Bannon. So Steve Bannon, for a time, was the CEO of a gold farming company.
That's the issue with dealing with a devil. Literally, it happened right there.
Yeah.
He got him on board with promise of great riches. Shit collapsed around him, and then he was replaced by the devil he was dealing with. Like, that's how it is.
Yep. And after this happens, Pierce is hit with another lawsuit. This time it's from the former EverQuest guildmate that he had founded IGE with all the way back in Spain.
Oh, man.
The lawsuit was seeking millions of dollars in damages because Pierce had left this co-founder out of the deal with Goldman Sachs. It called Pierce's character, and he's just trying to get money.
Yeah.
But the lawsuit calls Pierce's character into question by bringing his dark history with Den back into the light. As if to help the plaintiff make his point, Collins Rector was back in the news for child sex abuse.
Oh, man.
The point against Pierce's character had essentially been made for them, and all they had to do was point at the headlines.
Yeah.
So that was the end of things for IGE. And I have a little "Where Are They Now" section
Okay, yeah.
at the end of the episode here, so we can learn what happened to Pierce, we can learn what happened to IGE, and we can also learn what happened to Steve Bannon.
All right, yeah. Well, yeah, who knew?
So unfortunately, people like Pierce don't tend to face any real consequences.
Yeah. He didn't before, he won't now.
No, he's like actually a billionaire now.
I'm going to make a guess. Crypto rug pulls.
Yes, you're absolutely
All
correct. Crypto rug pulls. So he moved on from IGE and ended up becoming a mega rich crypto guy.
Yep.
He co-founded the cryptocurrency called Tether, which you may have heard of. It's one of those ones that stays, it just keeps its value at $1 all the time.
Okay.
And he made millions running a crypto-based venture capital firm. He also became a powerful voice in the crypto world and notably assisted Jeffrey Epstein in making enormous investments in several crypto companies, including Coinbase. In case you didn't know that Coinbase got off the ground due to a large investment from Jeffrey Epstein.
Great.
So with this year's Epstein Files release, a close personal relationship between Pierce and Epstein was made crystal clear. The two were likely introduced through Steve Bannon.
Yeah.
After he joined IGE. Epstein liked what Pierce had to say about crypto, and over time they grew quite close. Pierce is kind of the guy who gets Jeffrey Epstein into the crypto world and gets his investments into these crypto companies, right? We already know that Pierce had been adjacent to, if not directly involved with, child sex trafficking from a young age. Whether he was watching it happen, whether he was a victim of it, or whether he was participating in it, he was around it.
All of these things often revolve around each other, unfortunately.
Yeah. And mostly due to his connection to Collins Rector, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm about to tell you shouldn't be very surprising. This information comes from the 2026 Epstein Files release. In one email, Epstein asks Pierce to, quote, take photos and find me a present during a trip to Ukraine and Russia that Pierce took. Pierce responds to this request with dozens of photos of a Ukrainian woman who is almost certainly a victim of sex trafficking. Pierce then adds that, quote, Ukraine is now my favorite country. In a later email, Pierce invites Epstein to join him on, quote, a boat in Antigua full of amazing Ukraine's finest. Folks, this is the same guy who spent the early 2000s selling you gold in World of Warcraft.
Awesome. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, this is like very recent news that they were not just business partners.
Yeah, no, this is fresh journalism. Good job.
This is journalism that other people did that I read,
okay.
but
Sure.
I did not go through the files myself.
They're very long.
Yes.
I think it's like 3 million documents per release.
I don't know,
like
man. Like a bunch of the pages are just black.
Yeah.
So as for the fate of IGE, after Bannon took over, I'm afraid this news isn't really any better. The company shifted towards running online forums for gamers. This sounds innocent, right? They're just forums for games, but
what's his angle?
this is where Bannon learned, in my opinion, to use media to mobilize crowds of angry young men who spend way too much time online. I think this is where he develops that skill.
I see.
Under Bannon's control, IGE fostered forums for these young men that transformed into hateful right-wing echo chambers. Those very forums helped to foster the misogynistic and anti-woke sentiment that sparked Gamergate in 2014.
Yep, that sounds about right.
If you don't know about Gamergate, it was a huge harassment campaign that primarily targeted women and feminism in the world of video games. Participants claimed to be protecting the integrity of gaming culture against political correctness and social justice warriors. In reality, it was a hate campaign that was doxing, harassing, and making horrible threats against women. So I guess you have IGE to thank for that as well.
Awesome.
As I mentioned... As I mentioned, Bannon would go on to co-found Breitbart. I think there is a clear trend here, and I think that Bannon became very good at using the internet to manipulate and mobilize groups of primarily young men based on hatred.
More Breitbart, more like Big Fart.
That's so true.
Got
so
him.
Wise.
Thank you.
And whether you like it or not, there's a reason that MAGA Republicans saw Bannon as a good pick for a campaign strategist.
Yeah.
They rely heavily on blind faith and hate to garner support, and Bannon is genuinely an expert at creating that sort of environment. And at the end of the day, I do think that IGE is a big part of how he developed that strategy.
That's an interesting connection.
So, yeah, that's where they are now, and that's about all I have for you today. I'm sorry that the ending is bleak. This is definitely less of like a Dudes Rock episode than I usually write. The story was too interesting to pass up, though, and I know the episode went in like 100 different directions. So I hope you found it as interesting as I did.
No, that's crazy. I didn't anticipate that when you told me we were doing an episode on gold farming that we'd end up talking about Epstein.
Yeah, it ended up.
I thought we were talking about World of Warcraft and like, yeah, that's crazy. What the fuck? Dude, it makes me want to do an episode on Enron.
That would be fun.
Man.
That would be a good one.
Fucking wild. Great episode. I got my socials pulled up, so I know exactly what they are now because we keep going. I think
Yeah, I keep forgetting that we even have to plug them now too.
Make sure on Instagram you follow at Koolaid_stand_podcast. If you could watch our videos on YouTube, also listen to us there by closing your eyes. That's at Koolaid Stand Koolaid_stand. We have 5 subscribers, or you can follow us right here on Spotify.
Do it.
Do it. Otherwise, I don't want to threaten them with what we talked about.
I don't know. I was about to say I'm going to send Steve Bannon to help you run your business.
Oh shit, that's terrifying. I was gonna sentence him to like 5 years in the WoW gold mine.
That sounds just as bad, frankly.
All right, see ya.
Bye.